The Galactic Union's Grand Chamber buzzed with the cacophony of 24 alien species. Ambassadors in ceremonial attire mingled beneath the vast crystal dome, their voices a symphony of clicks, whistles, and translated speech. Standing alone at the edge of the gathering was Commander Marcus Reed, Earth's diplomatic representative, nursing a glass of something blue that smelled vaguely of cinnamon that he'd spent 6 months preparing for this summit. Learning protocols, memorizing species traits, practicing the proper pronunciation of titles that human vocal cords were never designed to produce. Yet he still felt like an outsider. The sideways glances from the winged DeLoreans, the dismissive flicks of antenna from the Zenith delegation, the barely concealed snickers when he tried to operate the gravity-adjusting platforms. They think we're slow. His attaché had warned him during preparation. Primitive, unrefined, the equivalent of bringing a club to a particle beam fight. A fact that Counselor Zwiextal, the spindly representative from the technologically advanced Ardelian conglomerate, seemed determined to reinforce as he approached Marcus now. Commander Reed, the Ardelian's translation device chirped, its 7 eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern. I trust you're finding our gathering accessible to your species' capabilities? Marcus smiled tightly. Quite comfortable, Counselor. The Union has been most accommodating. Yes, well, Zwiextal's mouthparts clicked. We do make efforts to include even the more developmentally delayed species. Your neural processing time of 200 milliseconds, quite significant by galactic standards. Almost a full quarter second to react. One wonders how your kind survived long enough to achieve spaceflight. Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted across the chamber. A massive, scaled creature with gleaming black armor plates, a Krith warrior from the outer systems, was roaring at a small, insectoid diplomat. The Krith's ceremonial blade was half-drawn, its bioluminescent patterns flashing warning signals. Fascinating, Schicksal muttert. A diplomatic incident in progress. The Krith are notorious for their hair-trigger tempers and combat reflexes. This should be educational for you, Commander. Security drones hovered uncertainly, their intervention protocols conflicting with diplomatic immunity codes. The chamber quieted as delegates backed away from the confrontation. Without hesitation, Marcus set down his drink and walked directly toward the brewing storm. Commander, that's inadvisable, Zwiextal called after him. Marcus approached the Krith, whose name badge identified him as Warlord Drazkor. The warrior towered 3 feet above him, armored scales flexing with barely contained rage. Warlord Drazkor, Marcus said clearly, making no sudden movements. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. The Krith's multifaceted eyes swiveled toward him, pupils dilating. This does not concern your species, human. Perhaps not directly, Marcus acknowledged. But as I understand Krith custom, a warrior of your standing would never draw blood at a gathering where battle songs have not been properly intoned. It would dishonor your clan's battle hymn, wouldn't it? The Krith froze, its breathing plates expanding in surprise. You know the battle hymns? Drazkor rumbled. Only what I've studied. Your people's martial traditions are legendary. I would be disappointed to see such traditions compromised over a simple translation error. The chamber held its collective breath as the massive warrior considered Marcus's words. Then, slowly, the Krith returned its blade to its sheath. The human speaks wisdom, Drazkor announced. I will await proper ceremony. As the tension dissolved, Marcus nodded respectfully and returned to a visibly stunned Zwiextal. That was unexpected, the Ardelian admitted. Perhaps there is something to be said for your species' diplomatic approach. We're full of surprises, Marcus replied with a small smile. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in a section of the station he never expected to visit, the combat assessment chamber. Word of his diplomatic intervention had spread, and somehow this had led to an invitation he couldn't diplomatically refuse. Professor Nix Vera, the Union's chief xenobiologist, explained the situation as they walked through sterile white corridors. After your interaction with the Krith warlord, several council members expressed curiosity about human reflexes. Your species has been categorized as Class 4 in neural response time, quite slow by galactic standards. Yet your handling of Drazkor suggested otherwise. We have other strengths, Marcus said carefully. Indeed, which is why we've arranged this assessment. Nothing dangerous, I assure you. Just a simple reflex test that all member species undergo. The professor led him into a circular room with a platform at its center. Around the perimeter, various alien dignitaries had gathered in observation booths. Marcus recognized several council members, including Zwaxtal and, surprisingly, Warlord Drazkor. The test is straightforward, Nix Vera explained. Stand on the platform. Tachyon emitters will project light beams from random directions. Your task is simply to avoid them. What happens if a beam hits me? Marcus asked. A mild sensory feedback. Unpleasant, but harmless. The system records your reaction time and evasion patterns for scientific analysis. Marcus nodded slowly. And this is standard protocol? Absolutely. Though I should note, no class, 4 species has ever progressed beyond the 3rd round. Most don't clear the 1st. Marcus removed his formal diplomatic jacket, leaving him in a fitted black undershirt. He stepped onto the platform, feeling the subtle hum of technology beneath his feet. Ready when you are, he called. The lights dimmed. A soft blue glow emanated from the platform's edge. Beginning assessment. Round 1, announced an automated voice. The first beam came from his right, a flash of green light. Marcus stepped aside with casual ease. Another shot passed his shoulder. He tilted his head slightly, letting it pass. 3 more in quick succession. He pivoted, ducked, and sidestepped. Round 1 complete. 0 impacts, the system announced. Proceeding to round 2. In the observation booth, Zwaxtal leaned forward. Interesting. Perhaps he was fortunate with the pattern. Round 2 brought faster beams from less predictable angles. Marcus moved with deliberate economy. No wasted motion, no panic, just smooth transitions from one position to another. To the observers, he appeared to be performing a slow, strange dance. Round 2 complete. 0 impacts. Proceeding to round 3. Murmurs spread through the observation area. No class, 4 species had ever completed 2 rounds perfectly. Round 3 began. The beams now came at combat speed, the kind used to test the reflexes of the galaxy's apex predator species. Marcus's movements became more pronounced, but remained composed. A beam grazed his arm, the first hit. Contact registered, the system announced. Marcus adjusted his stance. The next series of beams missed entirely. Remarkable, Nix Vera whispered. He's adapting. Round 3 complete. 1 impact. Proceeding to round 4. The observation booth erupted in shocked discussions. Round 4 was reserved for species with neural processing speeds 10 times faster than humans were believed to possess. The tempo increased dramatically. Beams fired from hidden emitters in patterns designed to be unpredictable. Yet Marcus moved before many beams even appeared, shifting his weight and position in ways that made no sense, until a beam would shoot through the exact space he had just vacated. He's anticipating the system. Drazkor growled with newfound respect. Impossible, Schicksal countered. The system uses quantum unpredictability. There's no way to. Round 4 complete. 0 impacts. Proceeding to round 5. Silence fell across the chamber. Round 5 had only ever been attempted by the Sylvani, an extinct race whose neural structure operated at relativistic speeds. The platform pulsed, and the nature of the test changed. Now the system announced, temporal variance engaged. What happened next defied the observer's understanding of physics. The assessment system registered hits before the beams were fired. According to every known principle of causality, Marcus should have been struck multiple times. Yet he moved through the storm of light untouched, his body flowing like water around obstacles that hadn't yet appeared. When the final beam faded, Marcus stood at the center of the platform, breathing slightly faster, but otherwise unruffled. Assessment complete. Final score, 1 impact across 5 rounds. New species record established. The chamber remained silent for 3 full seconds, an eternity in galactic politics, before erupting in chaos. Hours later, in a secure conference room, Marcus sat across from the Union's highest-ranking officials. Beside him was Dr. Elena Reyes, Earth's chief neurophysicist, who had been urgently summoned from the diplomatic vessel. Explain, demanded the Union Chancellor, a crystalline entity whose thoughts manifested as colored light patterns. Dr. Reyes activated a holographic display showing human brain scans. What you witnessed isn't technology or enhancement. It's natural human neurology. She highlighted regions in the temporal lobe. These are what we call temporal prediction nodes. They exist in all humans, though some have more developed pathways than others. Prediction nodes? ZYX translator struggled with the concept. Essentially, parts of the human brain process information before the conscious mind receives it. Our bodies often react before we're aware of needing to. That's not merely reflex. Nix Vera objected. The commander was avoiding stimuli that hadn't yet occurred. Dr. Reyes nodded. Humans exist in a constant state of temporal prediction. We've evolved to anticipate events fractions of seconds before they occur. It's why we can catch falling objects, why athletes can return serves traveling faster than their neural pathways should process, why Commander Reed could avoid beams that, from your perspective, violated causality. From our perspective, the Chancellor's lights pulsed questioningly. Humans don't experience time quite the way most species do, Marcus explained. We're constantly living slightly ahead of the present moment, preparing for what's about to happen rather than simply reacting to what already has. If what you're saying is accurate, Warlord Drazkor rumbled, then your species' capabilities have been severely misclassified. That was intentional, Marcus admitted. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. You deceived the Union. Zuayekstall's voice carried dangerous undertones. We presented ourselves accurately, Marcus countered. Humans are not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species. Our measured neural response time is indeed around 200 milliseconds when we're consciously reacting. But we rarely operate on conscious reaction alone. Why reveal this now? The Chancellor asked. Marcus leaned forward. Because alliance requires trust, and trust requires understanding what your allies truly bring to the table. Humanity's strength isn't in our muscles or technology. It's in how we process reality itself. Dr. Reyes continued the explanation. Throughout our evolution, humans were rarely the apex predator. We weren't the strongest or fastest. We survived because we could anticipate, could sense danger before it struck. This ability became central to our development. The tactical implications are significant, Drazkor acknowledged, which is precisely why we wanted control disclosure, Marcus said. Imagine how this might have been received if we'd announced upon first contact. Hello, we're humans, and we can predict the immediate future. A reluctant murmur of understanding rippled through the group. 6 months later, the Galactic Union's approach to human integration had transformed completely. Training facilities across 3 sectors now featured human instructors teaching alien species how to harness the subtle cues their own biologies had evolved but never fully utilized. Warlord Drazkor had become humanity's most vocal advocate, having experienced firsthand the value of temporal prediction in combat scenarios. Even Zuayextal had moderated his position, especially after human engineers helped refine our Delian sensor systems using principles derived from human perceptual processing, in what became known as the Reed Protocol. Human representatives demonstrated again and again that their value to the galactic community wasn't in raw strength or technological superiority, but in their unique perspective on reality itself. Marcus, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood at a viewport on the Union Central Station, watching ships from 100 worlds navigate the complex orbital dance. Penny for your thoughts, Ambassador. Dr. Reyes joined him at the window. Just reflecting on how quickly things change, he replied. 6 months ago, we were the slow, primitive species barely worth diplomatic courtesy. And now they're starting to understand what we've always known, that humanity's greatest strength isn't in how we react to the universe. She smiled. It's in how we anticipate it. Below them, in the station's grand training hall, a human instructor was teaching a group of alien diplomats and soldiers alike. His words, broadcast through translation fields, echoed the lesson humanity had brought to the stars. The present isn't what you see. It's what's about to happen next. Learn to live there, in that fraction of a second between now and then, and you'll never be caught unprepared again. The Reed incident, as it came to be known in galactic records, marked not just a revelation about human biology, but a fundamental shift in how species understood each other. It wasn't strength or technology that ultimately determined a species' place in the cosmos. It was perspective. And humanity's unique temporal perspective had earned them not just a seat at the galactic table, but the respectful attention of everyone seated around in the vast darkness between stars. Perception was proving to be the most valuable currency of all.